Joining the show today is a man that, I don't know if any of you are like me. You've all heard him at some point on NHL on NBC broadcast. That's kind of the standard that everyone goes with. But he's got a resume that includes 16 NHL seasons. He's been behind an NHL bench. He's been in sportscasting forever, it seems like. And most importantly, beating the odds with his stage 3 colon cancer diagnosis. Thanks so much for joining us, Eddie Olczyk.
Joe, nice to be with you guys. Thanks for having me. And when I got Joe's text and then email, I said, hockey season can't be that far away. Training camps are open up within a couple of days in most locales. So great time of year, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
No problem. Well, I'm sure you saw the link, the name of the podcast is Fellowship of the Rink, a stick tap to our Lord of the Rings kind of fandom. Everybody has their own kind of nerd itch that they scratch sometimes. What's your outside the box kind of passion that you keeps you kind of consumed?
Well, horse racing for sure. It's pucks and ponies, and it's been a lot of ponies this summer for yours truly. So that's always been my release. Even when I was, playing in the National Hockey League back in the, back in a long time ago and back in the early 80s. And, I never drank. I never was in that kind of crowd. I mean, I would go out with the guys and, I'd have a good time and do what young people do. But I just, my release and my passion has always kind of been horse racing, and been lucky enough to be a part of NBC's horse racing coverage since 2015, really the summer of 14, and then into 2015 with the Kentucky Derby. And it's been an unbelievable second chapter as far as broadcasting. I really believe it's helped me become a better broadcaster by doing the horse racing. And so, for me, there's no doubt. If I have a choice between this and horse racing, well, there's a pretty good chance that horse racing could get the attention of yours truly. Whether I'm sitting, as my wife likes to say, I have an OTB in my living room, but either I got an off-track betting in our house, or I'm working. It's pretty much horse racing and hockey for yours truly.
Well, in your book, you mentioned early on just how early in your life you kind of started following the horses, right? Like you got the track, at what age? I don't know if your dad took you, or how did that?
Actually, I think I was 12 or 13, Joe. I think that was the first time I ever went to the track and saw these incredible equine athletes. You get these crazy human beings on there that are, maybe this tall, or and probably 115 or 120 pounds, and they're jumping on animals that weigh 1,200 pounds, and they're traveling up to 35 or 40 miles an hour. And I just thought that was incredible, And I didn't know what I was doing, but just going to the track for the first time. I actually went with a buddy of mine, a teammate of mine, Danny Quillis. We played hockey together. His dad, Tony, the late Tony Quillis, was our team manager, and a broken down horse player like I have become. And in between spring hockey games, he asked my parents if, would they mind if he took me to the racetrack in between games for a few hours or whatever. And so I borrowed $20 from my wife, from my mother's purse when I was 12 or 13 years old. And I went to the track and, made a couple of wagers, and I went to the same ticket taker, that was taking my bet, and I didn't win the first couple. And then I think I just played like a $5, get an exact order 1 and 2. And I think I played my hockey number, which was 16. So I played a 1-6, and I think I cashed for like $156 or $157. So I went back to the same window, the same guy. I hand him my ticket. He cashes it in. It comes up $157. And he looks at me and he says, "Hey, how old are you?" And the first thing I thought was, like, he didn't ask me how old I was earlier. And when I first, my first couple of bets. So I just quick-witted. I just said, "Well, you didn't ask me how old I was when I lost." And then the guy, guy was probably, I thought the guy was old at 30, to be honest with you. I thought he was an old guy, but he was probably only 30. And he looked at me and then he kind of smirked a little. He went into his till and pulled out $157 off a $5 wager. And I don't know what, he gave me like 7 singles or whatever, and 50 and 100 or whatever. And I was just like, I give him 3 singles, and I kind of winked at him and I walked away. I tipped the guy at 12 years old. So I've been hook, line, and sinker ever since. Yes, for sure.
Oh my God, that's great. And I'm admittedly more of a casual, Eddie. Like I'd say about 4 days a year, I decide that I'm going to be into horses, and that's leading into the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah.
I got to ask though, like, is the Kentucky Derby like the event if you're really into horses, or is that just like what everyone from the outside gets all excited about? That's more casuals.
No, it's the biggest day. You're right, Scott. It is. It's you don't. How do I want to say this? Like when I'm saying over just my years of people knowing from the hockey world and just in general. I mean, I've had thousands of people ask me about the Kentucky Derby, and I tell everybody the same thing. It should be on your bucket list, because once you go, I promise you will walk out of there and go, how have I not done this earlier in my life? Like, that's just the reality of it. Like, yeah, the horse racing is unbelievable, but Churchill Downs, I mean, it's changed dramatically over the years. And it's, if you love people, if you love to have a good time, it's an unbelievable weekend if you can get tickets and get down to Louisville or get to wherever you're coming from to get up there. So, but it's for everybody. I think it is truly for everybody. And it is the one day where we know in the horse racing business is that we have the most eyes on us on that particular day, because we have somebody that maybe watches horse racing once a year, once a couple of years, and then maybe you have people that watch it, 3-4 times, or you have somebody like me that watches it probably 7 or 8 hours a day, regardless if I have any skin in the game. So you're catering to a certain audience in the way that we bring the show to people at home. I mean, we hit a lot of different demos. I mean, there's cooking and drinking displays that go on, and there's celebrities there, and there's fashion, and there are a lot of backside stories on horses and how they get their names and ownership groups. And so, I mean, we try to cater and understand that this is a well-rounded audience that are watching us. And but it is I would encourage anybody out there that's thinking about it, don't think anymore, just react and get a chance to go. And I promise you that you won't be disappointed, because they put on a hell of a show at Churchill.
You go into a lot of detail, obviously, in your book, Beating the Odds. And I think any patient you talk to that's been through cancer has that turning point in their diagnosis, and they're going through chemo. Like, what was the turning point for you where you could have gone either way, of just been like, enough with this,
Well, it's funny you say that, Joe, because about 12 feet from where I am sitting down in my basement is pretty much where I spent the majority of my battle when I was going through my chemo back. And I actually started my chemo on September 11th of 2017 is when I started my first treatment. And that, what word do I want to use? That turning point in my approach and where I hit the crossroads was September 25th. So it was a day after my second treatment, or it was the day of my second treatment. So the 25th of September. And the side effects for anybody that's ever been around somebody that's been in a battle or has unfortunately had to take the chemo, there are a lot of side effects. In many of them, could be the wide range of neuropathy in your hands, your fingers, your toes, nosebleeds, feel like you're swallowing glass, nauseation, not controlling your bowel movements, blood clots, everything. And I had, 5 of the 6 of those that were pretty constant, but I could not control going to the bathroom. I was taking 4 hours of chemo at the hospital every 2 weeks, and then I would come home for 48 hours. I would have a fanny pack on, and it would go off every 90 seconds. And all I would hear would be, every time the pump would go off, I knew that the medicine was going into me. And obviously it's there to help. I knew that, but you're sitting there wondering, well, am I going to die? And B, you're wondering, yeah, okay, I have 6 months of chemo, and then they're going to reassess from there. But when you have the side effects, and I thought I had to go to the bathroom, and then I didn't feel like it, and I stood up, and quite frankly, I took 2 steps and I couldn't hold it. I just absolutely crapped the floor. That's what happened. And that's when I said, I'm done. I quit. And I've never quitted anything in my life. When people told me I wouldn't make the NHL because I was a kid from Chicago, I kept playing the game of hockey, not to prove anybody wrong, but people would tell me, the NHL doesn't take American-born players, and the kid from Chicago is never going to make it. When I was trying out for the U.S. Olympic hockey team in 1984, I was 16 years old, and that was right after the Miracle on Ice in 1980. Obviously, people told me I wouldn't make it because I was too young. When I'm down at the racetrack, if I'm down $200, well, check that. If I'm down 2,000, I'm not giving up, I'm not. So I've never really quitted anything in my life, but that day I was ready to quit because it was testing my will to live. And I just thought, I can't put myself through this. I'm not going to put my family through this. And if I can't get through today, September 25th of 2017, how am I going to get through the next 10 treatments? Because I did 12 and I was starting the second one. But I had the greatest inspirational speech that I ever got. I've been in a lot of locker rooms. I've been able to be around a lot of people that have made differences in locker rooms and in boardrooms and in friendships. But I got the best inspirational talk I ever got was from my wife, Diana. We've been married 37 years now. And when I told her I was ready to bail, I was ready. I had a port with the fanny pack. It was into my chest. I was ready to just bail. And we had a 25-minute conversation, and I cried for 30 of it. And my wife just said, look, you got to fight. You got to fight for me. You got to fight for our 4 kids. And you got to fight for all the people that love you. And I needed that. I needed that inspiration. I needed to be talked off the ledge. And if my wife was not here, I would not be here. I know that 100% because, as I said earlier, when you are in the battle, in the medicine and all the different concoctions, it does play on your mind, not only the physical part, but the mental part. And that's where I was. And that's where I hit my lowest, Joe, and Scott, to the heart of your question. That's where I hit my lowest, was on that day. And after we had the conversation, I just said, okay, I'm going to fight. I'm going to put my head down at night. I'm going to close my eyes. And if I wake up, because when I heard I had cancer, the first thing I thought of was death. That's me. I don't know if that's common, but that was me. And I just said, okay, you know what? I'm just going to grind this thing out. So I kind of put my hockey helmet back on. I got back into that mode of being a hockey guy and just saying, you know what? Okay, I'm going to battle each and every day. And the last thing I will say on that is I felt, even though it was testing my will, when my wife had this conversation with me, I was very much at peace with what was going on. I'm glad I said it then. I'll say it today. I'll say it to the last breath I have in my body, I'm glad I am the one that got sick. I don't know why I got sick. I don't know how. No family history. I absorbed it, and I was the one that had to do it, because knowing what I know now and what we all battle through, it would kill me to know that somebody is going through that. And that drove me. I was at peace because I learned a long time ago to always let the most important people in your life know how you feel about them. Your family, your friends, the people you work with. And I've always done that. And I just felt like I was at peace when it came to that. And I think that helped me. I think that once I got over that major pothole of wanting to quit after I, crapped the floor, okay, like I'm not alone, because when you're diagnosed with the disease, I wanted to go under a rock, to be honest with you. Like, I didn't want to burden anybody. At that time, I was doing local TV in Chicago with the Blackhawks, and I was doing TV for NBC. I would have liked to just not put a burden on anybody and let anybody know. But, when you're in the so-called, public eye, and it's kind of hard to go underground. And so I think for me, having been at peace and having my wife and that caretaker be there for me. And look, I had family and friends, hockey and horse racing. I mean, I got lucky, and a team of doctors led by Dr. Michael Ruckham and Dr. Michael Terry. They led my team to get me back and being healthy now for almost 7 years, clean and clear from stage 3 colon cancer. So I don't know why. I don't know how I beat it. But my wife and I try to make sure is that as a community, is that we need to make sure we're not only taking care and reaching out to the people that are ill, but we also have to make sure is that we're reaching out to the caretakers and caregivers, because I never saw my wife weak. I never saw my wife scared. I never saw my wife worried around me. I'm sure there were times when she was away from me is where she let her guard down and was wondering, well, is my husband, what's going to happen to my husband? So we need to make sure that we are also looking out after the caretakers and caregivers, because they are going through a lot themselves. And I'm lucky. I got lucky, and after all this, I got 4 grandkids now, and life is good, because if you don't have your health, quite frankly, you have nothing. And I continue to fight, because I could sit here and unfortunately name off 10 to 12 people in my life, and I'm talking about like in my life that are in the battle, and it is it hurts. It hurts a lot, but have to show strength, have to show positivity, have to show support, and continue to let them know and talk to them and give them all the support that I can or we can. So I appreciate you guys allowing me to kind of give a Cliff Notes version of my story and the ups and downs of being in the battle. But it does test your will when you are in the battle. There's no doubt about it.
It's obviously an incredible fight and incredible battle, and you couldn't have done it, you mentioned, without Diana. And my favorite question to ask people is how you met your wife. It's always a fun question or a fun anecdote here and there. And I know you have a really great story about how you met yours. And I'm doing a story on like the charter life now for players and going on. And it's a whole different stage of level back when you were playing, right? And so how did you meet Diana?
Yeah. I like to say sometimes that we just celebrated her birthday a couple of months ago, and I said, "Yeah, we met on a horse and buggy when we were going from Chicago to Detroit." And of course, then I get a Jimmy Choo flying at me from about 25 feet. But so I was a rookie in the National Hockey League, playing with my hometown team, a team I lived and died with and for, the Blackhawks. I was drafted by my hometown team back in the '84 draft, and that year in February, I think it was early March. It was early March of 1985, my rookie year. We had played an afternoon game in Chicago, And at that time, again, I mean, Joe, you kind of touched on it. Like you flew commercial, like you drove to the airport, you left your car there, you went to the gate. Now, obviously, security is way different now than it was then, but you just walked through, and your team, your team services guy would have a boarding pass for you. And when you're a rookie, you sit in the middle seat. I mean, that's just the reality of it. So that day after we played at home, the afternoon game, there was a lot of traffic heading to O'Hare Airport from downtown, the old Chicago Stadium on Madison Street. And half the team did not make the flight because there was a major accident. So the flight, the commercial flight, they're not holding the plane, like they're leaving. So I was like, maybe 13 or 14 guys made it and the other half didn't. So they had to come later. So I get on this plane, American Airlines, and as I'm walking on, I got my boarding pass, and I, quite frankly, saw the most stunning woman I've ever seen in my life. Now, again, I was 18 years old, and I had been around, but I had, I kind of thought that like my heart stopped. I mean, that's the first thing that I saw, and then I saw her name tag, my wife's name tag, and as you mentioned, Joe, Diana. That's my mom's name. So that got my attention right off the bat, like Diana. And then I got close enough to see her maiden name, and her maiden name is Vickers. And I'm like, I grew up on a street called Mick Vickers for about 15 years of my life. I'm like, this has got to be, So what I did was quickly, good scouting by me. It was a big ass plane. Like I think it was like a 747, and it wasn't really full. But the catch is that my wife was living in New York. She deadheaded from New York to Chicago to just work the Chicago to New York flight, the turnaround. So she didn't work. She just flew from New York to Chicago to work the flight back from O'Hare to LaGuardia. So they had called her like in the afternoon and said, we need you to work. So it was like last minute. So I get on the plane, I kind of scope out what section, she was kind of working there. And to her story, she said I ordered like maybe 8 or 10 orange juices or whatever, which, I don't know if it was that many, but, I just kind of talked to her or whatever. And I didn't know how old she was. I didn't know any of that. And sure enough, we made contact. We talked on the phone for a couple of weeks, and then she came in actually a month later, the night before my very first NHL playoff game. We were playing the Red Wings in the playoffs, and we went out the night before. We went out for some pizza at a place called Barnaby's here in the suburbs of Chicago. And lo and behold, I had my first playoff game. I scored my very first 2-goal game in my NHL career the very next night. So I figured, well, what the hell? We might as well get married, And sure enough, 3 years later, we ended up getting married, and here we are. I guess 40 years later. So yes, let me say this. Yes, it was love at first flight.
There you go.
Ooh, what
Great line.
Tagline.
Yeah.
So Eddie, we're inundated in all of the noise. We're here in the market, but I got to know from a neutral observer.
Yeah.
What's going through your mind when you see that Kirill Kaprizov has turned down the Minnesota Wild's contract offer that would have made him the highest paid player in NHL history?
Well, I mean, if that is indeed, factual, again, there's always two sides to every story. And again, just on the surface, if that is indeed the case and he's turned it down, and he has every right to, and if he decides he wants to play it out, he becomes an UFA, right? An unrestricted free agent. And, he can do and what he pleases. So, I mean, he's earned the right to turn down or renegotiate, so to speak, or whatever it is. The first thought I had when I heard it was, that's a lot of cake. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And if he did say no, then maybe my first thought is, well, maybe he wants a 2-year deal or a 3-year deal, and not necessarily, an 8-year deal. Okay, so that was my kind of first thought, because it seems like starting to maybe trend a little bit like the NBA, where you're getting these guys signing, 2 and 3 year deals, short-term deals. Like, those are short-term deals. There's no doubt about it. So that was the first thing I thought of. And then honestly, Scott and Joe, I thought the next thing is that, wow, if he actually did turn down that kind of money, he wants to play it out, and he wants to see what the open market will bear moving forward. So as a former player and a coach in Pittsburgh, and having been in meetings on both sides as a player and as a coach, there's no doubt, like when you have, elite world class, and Kaprizov is that. There's no doubt. He is a unbelievable player, and one of the top players in the National Hockey League. Is that when these type of players do drive the bus and they get to this situation, it puts ownership and management in a real spot, So I don't know. You guys tell me. Is he have a no movement or no trade in this deal that he has right now?
Oh, yeah, he does.
Full no move. Okay, so like you get to a situation where, and look it's no different than what's going on, in Edmonton right now, obviously with Connor McDavid. So I think as an organization, you have to weigh. Let me go back to Kaprizov. Was I surprised that he turned it down? Yeah, I mean, I guess I was, because that's a lot of cake for sure. But if he wants to go and test the market, then he has that ability to do that, regardless of what the Wild want to do. From the management side and in the team wise, is you're in a spot now where what realistically, if you decide to go to the player and say, hey, look, like, it sure don't seem like you want to sign here. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I mean, we can't give you 19 or 20 or whatever, whatever the max is. So you're in a spot now where can you afford, quite frankly, because that's what could happen. We saw what happened with Mitch Marner here recently, and he ended up signing, which I thought was kind of interesting. I know he got the extra year, but that's for another debate. Is can you afford to lose him for nothing? Like that's what it comes. That's what it comes down to. If you're not only, I'm not saying you're not only in Minnesota Wild, you're the Edmonton Oilers, or in 2 years you're the Colorado Avalanche with Cale Makar. Can you? But when is that line drawn in the sand by the team? Like, is it the year prior? Is it the summertime? Is it, what, we're gonna play this guy, and then we're gonna go to him at Christmas time, and if he doesn't want to sign, then we're gonna go and make a deal. Now, the team that's gonna try to get him, is that somewhere that that he's willing to sign, so to speak? I mean, look at Mikko Rantanen is kind of the example. Now, he didn't have, and correct me if I'm wrong, he did not have a no movement in his deal, because he ended up in Carolina, right? And he didn't want to sign there, if I'm not mistaken. And then he ends up obviously, in Dallas when they couldn't sign him. So it's an interesting dynamic, but long-winded. I was a tad surprised, but then again, obviously he might have his sights, or his representation has their sights on somewhere else. I mean, really, at the end of the day, I mean, that's a lot. It's a lot of money, and if you wanted to stay, again, things can change. But right now, he holds all the cards, and he will continue to hold all the cards until something changes.
Well, and my biggest question for someone like you, Eddie, you've said it, right? You've seen both sides of this. You've been in the management side. You've been in the player position. With all the work Bill Guerin has done to fix the culture for this team, like that was a big edict with the buyouts for Parise and Suter.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the players' point of this, because per the great reporting of Joe Smith and Mike Russo, like this story broke when Kaprizov was coming off the ice for captain's practice. Like, what are the guys in the locker room thinking as they sit and watch this play out?
I think that, I mean, look, I would imagine the majority of the players in that room are like, are you out of your mind? Like,
Marco Rossi just had to beg for a 5x3.
Yeah, right. I mean, like, they're probably sitting there going, "Oh, I mean, what an offer, right?" But players are very intelligent. They know what's going on. It's funny. I mean, you talk about salaries and salary disclosure. We just lost Bob Goodnow, who was the NHL Players Association executive director, and Bob was hard nosed. He was I think he was awesome to the players. I think a lot of players are still, obviously, when you don't work, you don't get paid. And I think there are a lot of players that lost. I mean, we as a union, we lost a lot of money, but when we fought for salary disclosure and we fought for our likeness, the league, the players, along with the league, obviously, it is in a much better place now than it was in the late 80s and early 90s, or it's just the reality of it. So when you think about salary disclosure, everybody knows what's going on. But I got to think, if I'm a teammate of Kaprizov and he again allegedly turns that offer down, you sit there and go, well, what are the chances that that he's going to be here this whole season? And that's where John Hines inside that room, if nothing changes and he's a member of the Wild and they just start their season or whatever, players just need to play and not worry about certain things. But at the end of the day, I don't think that there's any doubt that you are thinking about it if you're his teammate. And look, whatever he wants to do, you're hey, man, I wish you the best for you and your family, and whatever you want to do, we're good. So I don't think it's that big, but I do think it is. Regardless of what anybody says, I think it does become a distraction and a talking point. And you could see it in Edmonton too, right? I don't know the latest, but Connor McDavid could play it out too. So maybe that will help, distract a little bit of, what's going on in St. Paul with obviously Connor McDavid going into the last year of his contract.
There's such a cluster in the Western Conference, and you saw it in the playoffs last year, all bunched up. Their teams like Utah is coming up. St. Louis made that run last year. Minnesota's here. Seems like there's a lot of teams all clustered together. Like how close in your mind are the Wild to breaking through finally out of that first round and becoming maybe a team that can go, I'm not saying win the Stanley Cup, but I'm saying go on a little bit of run and be a factor, I guess, in the West.
Yeah, stylistically under Billy and Johnny Hines, I think that they do have that type of team. They've got, obviously, you look on the back end and led by Brock Faber, and obviously with Eriksson Ek and Kaprizov, and you have leadership and Foligno, so you can play. They can play a 5-4 game, I believe, when healthy, and then they can also they can play a playoff type of game and have to win a game 2-1 or 3-2. I think that they're going in the right direction. There's no doubt. Billy's done a hell of a job, and I always wish him well, because we never played together. He always chased me around the rink and tried to beat the hell out of me all the time. But I tried to explain to him, I'm an older American, guy, you should kind of take care of me a little bit, So, but I think that they're certainly on the right. I think they're on the right path. I do, but this will be. Again, I go back to what we were talking about. It's like, okay, if they can't sign Kaprizov, what can they get, and how can they impact their team? And would you have to maybe go in a little bit of a different direction in some areas? Yeah, probably, because you don't replace a guy like that. We know that. So, but I like what they're doing. I like their team. I really, I think a lot of John Hines as a coach, and even with my pal Tony DaCosta still behind the bench there, handing sticks out and busting my chops all the time. Yeah, I think that the Wild they're in very good hands. That's for sure.
And some people may not realize, a lot probably don't realize, before we had the prankster, the media darling, a guy that's going to probably be inducted in the Hall of Fame here in short order, You actually were one of Marc-Andre Fleury's first NHL coaches. What was that like? This interview is brought to you by our friends at Waggle Golf. Waggle Golf believes what you wear on the course should reflect your individuality, who you are, where you're from, your hobbies, interests, and passions. All the stuff that makes you, well, you. That's why every design is inspired by the desire to create a piece of apparel that strikes a chord when you see it. That makes you say, wow, that was made for me. Because in a lot of ways, it was. Ready to get your waggle on? Go to getyourwaggleon.com, throw in promo code SP10 at checkout to take 10% off your entire order.
Yeah, I'm proud to say I was his first.
And Crosby's first coach too, right? Crosby's first coach.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. In spite of me being their first coach, they've done pretty well, to be honest with you. I love, like, myself and Keith Wayner, who was our public, our PR man, our media relations man in Pittsburgh at the time, Keito. We refer, and we still to this day, we refer to Marc-Andre Fleury as the kid. When he came up, like he's the same. I think I mentioned this on one of the broadcasts last year, and it was very sincere and from the heart. Is that I saw him come in as an 18-year-old, and he is the same. He is the same today as he was when he came in as an 18-year-old, and obviously a father, a husband, Stanley Cup winner, regarded as one of the best teammates and one of the top goaltenders we've seen in the National Hockey League in the last 25, 30 years. But he is as genuine and as respectful is probably the one word that I would use to talk about Marc-Andre Fleury. And I got a chance to see him last year when I was in St. Paul for a TNT game, and actually walked in together, which was great. I mean, it just, it just brought back a lot of memories. And, that first year, and then his second year, the team was struggling financially. And at that time, when you played and you were a first round pick, there were a lot of bonuses tied into game action and being on the NHL roster. And unfortunately, fortunately, but unfortunately, because I was coaching and we were sending down our best goaltender, wasn't allowed to have our best goalie at that particular time. To see the reaction from him the couple of times that we had to send him down, I think he had a 40 or a 50 save performance in Pittsburgh, I think in the 04-05 season, and we had to send him down because he was getting a little bit too close to his bonuses. And it was the first time that the Penguins had beaten the Flyers in Philadelphia in 10 years or whatever it was. I think it was actually the 05-06 season when that happened. But anyways, so he plays the game in Philadelphia. He wasn't supposed to play. Actually, the game he played, Jocelyn Thibault was supposed to be the starter. And a guy by the name of Konstantin Koltsov in warmups hit him in the throat with a slap shot. So I'm in the coach's room, and Keith Wayner comes in, and he comes in and he goes, Edzo, I got some good news and bad news. He goes, what do you want first? I'm like, okay, I got to think about this. I go, well, give me the bad news first. He goes, Coltsy just hit Joss in the throat, and he's having a real difficult time. And I said, let me guess the good. And he goes, yeah, the kid's playing. And I go, all right, let's get him in there. And he had an unbelievable night. And I think that was the game that Sid, I think Doc Emmert was calling the game, and he said with the game on his stick, he scored, and we won in overtime, and we got to within, because we started off rough that year. We were 0-5-2, and at that time, I think we got to like 7-9-3 or something. We got to within 2 games, And after the game, I begged Craig Patrick if we can bring him back to Pittsburgh, because we played Philly like 3 nights later, and they couldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. They didn't want to pay him his bonuses and whatever. And so we had a car take him from Philadelphia after having an unbelievable game down to Wilkes-Barre Scranton. We lost to Philadelphia a couple of nights later, and then eventually, you know, maybe a month or 6 weeks later, I ended up losing my job. But like those conversations with him of trying to explain to him and telling him, look, you're a great goalie. You're going to be a great goalie. Like, this is not about you. Like that was the one thing that I tried to emphasize to him. And we had, I'm not say hundreds, but we had 80, 90 conversations over the course of those couple of years that we were together, of just letting him know, because I didn't want him to not think that he was not good enough, you know, and that was kind of the message for me to let him know. And those were hard conversations. They were emotional. There were tears at times on both sides of the desk. I mean, because you're trying to tell a kid like, hey, like there's just certain things in professional sports, regardless of how awesome you played and how great you are for our team, is you can't control. And I think he understood, obviously, you know, his representation and his agency, I'm sure we're telling him all this. So, you know, but he long-winded again. I mean, he's awesome. He just was flat out awesome. Couldn't be more proud of what he was and what he became and what his legacy will be. And I was just so happy. I think it was Alan Walsh, I think was his agent at that particular time. And I think he was pretty much his whole career, but I'm sure Alan explained that to him over the years of what was going on with the financial part of it. But yeah, there's no doubt. I get that question often. I became a part of the Hall of Fame selection committee last summer. And, you know, I get people that, you know, walk by me and go, hey, you're going to vote for this guy? You're going to vote for that guy? And I let, you know, the names that they throw around. It's like, oh, yeah, I think I know, you know, a Hall of Famer from not. And, yeah, he gets a lot of attention, and rightfully so. And I don't think there's any doubt that, as I've said before, when I was a broadcaster, that he is certainly on his way to the Hockey Hall of Fame. And I'm not going to walk back on those words now just because I'm a part of the committee.
A couple of quick ones before I let you go, and thanks so much for doing this. A lot of fun conversation here. A couple of quick ones. My colleague Mike Russo gives me so much crap for my Diet Coke intake per day. One of my vices I have with you. So just really quickly, what is your record for number of Diet Cokes you've consumed in one day?
Well, I was a Diet Coke guy, then I became a DP guy, and I think when I was coaching in Pittsburgh, I probably was averaging. And at that time, I think they had like Diet Pepsi with a twist. Remember they had the lemon in there or whatever. It was great. I think I was probably at about. Honestly, I was probably at about 18 a day for probably about 10 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was expecting 8, not 18.
Yeah. But I'm completely on water now. I don't like, I just have changed. I've gone on a kind of a crazy, I don't want to say diet. I don't like that word, but I've stopped eating bread, rice, pasta, and pizza for the last 367 days. And I've lost 33 pounds. And I miss a little pasta here, a little pizza here. But I was just like, I was ballooning up enough where I just said, you know what? I'm doing the same workout I've been having for the last 15 years. And I know it's all in moderation, but I just decided to go that way. So it's working for me right now. But yeah, no more DC or DP. That's for sure.
Very fair. And cutting all that out of the diet, is that helping the golf game at all?
I used to play a lot of golf, Scott, but I kind of went cold turkey for about 12 years where I just I couldn't get off the tee, and I just said, you know what, I'd rather sit in my living room and play the horses, and that's kind of what become my my passion. So, but I have played a little bit more. Both my all of my boys, my 3 boys. My daughter doesn't play, but they play a lot of golf. So we've had a couple of nice days where we've been out to get out together and play. And my dad is still alive, and he plays a lot of golf. So I played a lot more in the last year than I have probably in the last 20 years, to be honest with you. And if I can't put a bow on that story about when I borrowed the $20 from my mom's purse when I went to the racetrack when I was 12 or 13, I lost my mom almost 4 years ago. And when my mom was on her way, I whispered in her ear. I said, "Mom, I just want to let you know something." And she kind of shook her head, and I said, I just want to let you know, the first time that I went to the racetrack with Mr. Quillis and Danny, I borrowed $20 from your purse, and she wasn't opening up her eyes that much at that particular time, and she kind of had her head on her shoulder, and she kind of looked at me, and she said, "I know, and you did it a few other times too, didn't you?"
Yeah.
I started. I mean, I lost it because I knew, I was going to lose my mom, and she knew, and she never, she never said anything, and I felt better that I told her, and I think I felt even probably better that she knew that I borrowed a couple of bucks from her to head to the racetrack when I was a kid. So so that's I put a bow on the broken down horse player when I was 12 years old story.
Cleared conscience for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, the final question for every guest we have on here, Edzo, comes from our good friends at Waggle Golf. Everybody go to getyourwaggleon.com, throw in promo code SP10 to take 10% off your entire order. I want you to give me 3 names here. It could be dead or alive, it could be athlete, celebrity, whoever. I want you to give me the names that round out your dream golf foursome.
Oh my goodness. What about Secretariat? Can I bring Secretariat to?
Yes.
No card needed for Secretariat. No card needed for that.
Oh my gosh. You know what? I don't think I've ever been asked a question like that before. So I'm kind of like flustered, to be honest with you. I'm thinking about. I mean, I was drafted the same year. Again, here I'm dropping names here, but 1984, I was drafted by my hometown team, as I mentioned, the Blackhawks. I was the 3rd overall pick. I know it was a lot of news because I was a Chicago kid or whatever, but I did get trumped by the Chicago Bulls that year in 1984. They selected a guy by the name of Michael Jordan, 3rd overall. So I played golf behind Michael. I played golf in front of Michael. We ran a little bit together back in the day. I would say that he would have to be at the front of the list for playing in that foursome. The other 2, oh my gosh, Bobby Clark was my idol as a kid, even though I was a diehard Blackhawk fan. That's why I wore 16, because of Bobby Clark. So I would have to put Clarky in there for sure. And oh my gosh, who would be the 3rd person? I was playing my rookie year, 85 Western Conference final. I think at that time it was the Campbell Conference. I was playing my rookie season. It was game 3 against Edmonton at the old Chicago Stadium. And I'm skating around in warmups. We're down 2-0. I'm skating around in warmups. And I look in the corner to the left of Murray Bannerman, and I see this gentleman, and I'm like, I can't believe it. And as I skate around and I circle back, this guy's clapping, he's smiling, and I'm like, as I skate by him, I go, holy cow, it's the Kansas Comet. I go, Gale Sayers is watching me play, watching us play against the Edmonton Oilers. And I go, Gale Sayers. I'm like, it doesn't get any bigger or better than that. So I don't know if the late great Kansas Comet played golf, but I would have to say Gale Sayers would finish out the foursome as long as Secretariat can kind of follow up with. Well, knowing him, he would be 5 or 6 holes ahead of us because of his triumphant Belmont win back in the 70s.
I like that, but you know what? I know you felt like you were put on the spot. You still did a great job, but I'll leave the offer out there that if you want to come back on later this winter, maybe a little preamble for the Olympics, we'll give you a fresh slate. You can put some thought into it and give us your second list.
Okay. I'd like to think I'm a man of my word. So if you guys want to have me on, whenever, I'd be happy to have a chance to really think about that. So that's like the question when I'm working with Kenny Albert and Brian Boucher and our illustrious stat man Benny Boma, when we travel together all the time. Sometimes we'll play some games, and it's like the last one we played is like, who give me your Rolodex. Who's kind of the most, whatever. So like that was kind of one of those that was we were talking about. So I'm like scrolling through my phone. Who in the hell is
MJ's up there?
So, yeah. So all right. Well, that sounds good. That's I agree to the agreement. If you guys have me back, I'll be a little bit more prepared. But I'd like to think that's a pretty damn good list, to be honest.
That's a very good list. I liked it before you took Secretariat off. I thought that was a great pick.
No slow play for Secretariat.
Well, I have been called a horse's ass before, and I mean many times, I'm sure. And considering I played at the old Met Center back in the day for the Blackhawks and the Maple Leafs, I'm sure there were some at that time young North Star fans that probably didn't like me and probably still don't like me, but that's okay. I mean, we love the game of hockey. So, at the end of the day, that would be a hell of a foursome with Secretariat, I would say. And I would say this is that you look at that foursome and Secretariat, and I agree. I'm asking that same question. What the hell am I doing in that with those people? And that equine athlete, by the way.
Well, we'll really enjoy this. Edzo, thanks so much for doing it. And I know season's starting pretty soon, but we'll hit you up at a rink sometime soon. So
look forward to it. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you.